When you look at the history of economics, the same names always appear: Adam Smith, Karl Marx, maybe Aristotle. But in the end, nobody asks you this. What if, before any of these names, there was someone who understood something much deeper? What if a man had completely identified the very questions that modern finance still struggles to solve today, a full 1,000 years ago? That name is almost completely absent from Western history books, and that is exactly why understanding him matters. Now, I want to take you back to the year 1100. Europe is dark and exhausted, fragmented, poor, lacking light. But at the very same time, several thousand kilometers away, an entirely different world exists. Islamic civilization stretches from Al-Andalus to Persia. Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, these are the New Yorks, Londons, and Tokyos of their era. Trade routes are flowing with silk and silver. Markets are thriving, cities are crowded. Wealth is transforming society at a pace that nobody fully understands. Sound familiar? It should. Because this picture is surprisingly similar to the world we live in today, it is at this point that Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, born in Persia in 1058, enters the stage, a philosopher, a jurist, a theologian, but above all, a man brave enough to ask difficult questions. By his 30s, he holds one of the most prestigious positions in the Islamic world. Yet he is never satisfied with what is merely good enough. He looks around and realizes something. Wealth is increasing. Markets are expanding. But something is deeply wrong. Society has become obsessed with money and disconnected from meaning. It shines on the outside while decaying from within. And he dares to ask the question that nobody else wants to ask. What happens when a civilization becomes wealthy faster than it becomes wise? Now I want you to stop and think about that question. If you heard it today on Twitter, on a podcast, or during a TED Talk, nobody would raise an eyebrow. Because it sounds modern. But Al-Ghazali asked it in an age when even the printing press did not exist. And he did not just ask the question. He answered it. What is money? For Al-Ghazali, the answer was remarkably simple: a tool. Nothing more and nothing less. He compared it to a mirror. A mirror has no value on its own. Its value comes from what it reflects. Money is the same. Its power does not come from gold or silver themselves. Its power comes from bringing people together and allowing them to cooperate. Sounds ordinary, doesn't it? But at the time, this idea was revolutionary, and the conclusion he drew from it was even more important. Hoarded money is dead money. Wealth locked in chests, hidden in rooms, buried beneath courtyards is not merely useless. It is socially destructive. It does not circulate. It does not feed workers. It does not finance trade. It is absent from the marketplace. It stops the circulation of society itself. Now think about this. Today, the wealth of the world's 8 richest people is equal to the combined wealth of the poorest 3.5 billion people. What would Al-Ghazali say if he saw that? But he did not stop at criticizing the wealthy. His greatest anger was directed at speculators, price manipulators, those who created artificial scarcity, those who profited from crises. He did not see this as intelligence. He saw it as moral decay. Those who profit from the suffering of others profit through corruption, he argued. And corruption, in his view, was like cancer. Once it settles into one organ, it spreads throughout the entire body. Does that remind you of the 2008 mortgage crisis, crypto bubbles, or housing speculation? Because Al-Ghazali saw these patterns, wrote about them, and warned against them nearly 900 years before they happened. But pay attention, because there is an important nuance here, and it should not be missed. Al-Ghazali was not against trade. He was not against profit. In fact, he even considered personal wealth to be something noble. His issue was with one thing, and one thing only: honesty. Markets function only when participants trust one another. When trust is broken, everything falls like a line of dominoes. Today we call this information asymmetry, transaction costs, or moral hazard. Al-Ghazali simply called it the collapse of trust, and he was right. Now we come to, perhaps the most striking part of all. Al-Ghazali viewed governments through the same lens. Medieval rulers often reduced the gold content of their coins to cover budget deficits. It was essentially an invisible tax. Without people noticing, they reduced the value of the public's money. Al-Ghazali described this with a single word: theft, and he issued a warning. If you do this too often, people will stop trusting your currency and flee towards stronger foreign currencies. We saw this in Weimar Germany. We saw it in Zimbabwe. We saw it in Venezuela and Argentina. And today we see it in inflation debates, dollar strength, and the flight toward gold. Money is fundamentally a system of belief. When that belief is shaken, the system collapses. Al-Ghazali understood this 1,000 years ago. So what lies beneath all of this? Al-Ghazali had a remarkably clear understanding of human nature. People hoard because they are afraid. They speculate because they are greedy. They cheat when given the opportunity. And when everyone else is doing it, they convince themselves it is legitimate. From this comes a powerful conclusion. You can never fix an economy without fixing incentives. If the people behind a system are pointed in the wrong direction, laws remain. Words on paper and markets operate blindly. When a system rewards greed instead of honesty, collapse becomes only a matter of time. And now I want you to look around. Record levels of public debt, cryptocurrency speculation, housing prices beyond the reach of the middle class, trust in institutions near historic lows, growing suspicion toward central banks. If Al-Ghazali were alive today and looked at all of this, he would probably say, "I already wrote about this. I already warned you." In the end, this is where we arrive. Economies do not collapse because of numbers. They collapse because people lose trust in one another, because incentives reward the wrong behavior, because institutions fail to preserve justice. What Al-Ghazali left behind is not a lesson in religion. It is a lesson in reality. Money is a moral ecosystem. When that ecosystem breaks down, the financial system follows soon after. For those of us living under the shadow of record debt, speculative bubbles, and institutional distrust, this is not an abstract lesson from history. It is a practical warning, perhaps even a survival guide. History does not repeat itself, but if you fail to understand it, it will crush you all the same. So let me ask you, where do you think the greatest crisis of trust exists today? In institutions, in markets, or in people themselves? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll keep bringing you insights that matter.